Put a gun to my head, I can get a job in 3 months. I got about 6 software engineering internships.
1,400 applications, 20 interviews, and then 1 offer.
I literally had a guy at Amazon walk up to me during my internship and say, I watched your Amazon internship video and now I'm here sitting next to you because I did what you said. Gone are the days of, learning HTML, CSS in a weekend and then getting a job at Google. A lot of people tend to hide behind the phrase, the market is bad.
Look, this person has not put any effort into that application.
Right, it's not chance. It's a set of actionable strategies that people can apply. They just get that offer.
I really did not know that. I have a completely different approach.
There are jobs.
That's like hacking the system.
And the most underrated thing, I think, is...
So Aman, have you heard of this statement? After carefully considering your application, we've decided to move forward with other candidates. Have you heard of that?
Trust me, man. I've heard of that far more than I would like. When I get it, they usually say, we've decided to move forward with other more qualified candidates.
Oh, you got the worst one.
I get the worst one. Yeah. I've seen that email, not dozens, probably hundreds of times. And especially today, 2025, almost anybody who wants to get a software engineering job or tech job has seen that dozens and dozens of times, if not hundreds. So we live in a very interesting time when it comes to tech recruiting and engineering.
So for anyone who doesn't know you, Aman, who are you?
Yeah, my name's Aman. I am the founder and CEO of a career coaching program called the Software Engineering Accelerator. We've coached 300 plus students and placed dozens at top companies like Meta, Google, Capital One, Amazon, Apple, and the list goes on, Microsoft as well. And even in the market of today, so this all happened in the past year. My background is that I was a software engineer, did a bunch of software engineering internships. And really this program, what we see is kind of like that last year of college that college doesn't give you. So I'm sure you're familiar with like the US university system. They don't teach you anything about getting a job. When you do a computer science degree, when you go learn your engineering degree, whether it's an undergrad or master's, sure, you learn computer science, you learn data structures and algorithms, you learn operating systems, but nobody tells you how to write a good resume, how to actually network, how to get referrals, how to do interviews, behavioral and technical. Nobody tells you anything like that. So essentially what we do is we're that like last year. So we've really seen what it takes to get a job in today's market. And gone are the days of, learning HTML, CSS in a weekend and then getting a job at Google.
Right. And it's not that you come from a place of just like you came out of school and you started this. You yourself are like a software engineer. You've secured like 6-figure job offers from companies like Amazon, Shopify. And it's like you're like a software engineer that turned into a career strategist and a YouTuber with like 75K subs almost. Like
yeah, I was doing this. So my story is that I have always been fascinated by like the career arbitrage game. So even when I was in college, I got about 6 software engineering internships. So I was applying for these internships, learning the recruiting interview strategy, and then I was cataloging the whole thing on my channel too. So if people look at my channel, click on most popular, you'll see like how I got my Amazon internship, how I got my Shopify internship. There's all the strategies out there. And pretty soon I realized I was getting comments from people who were like, dude, I applied everything you said, I got a job at Roblox. Or I applied everything you said, I'm at Google now.
Right.
Or I literally had a guy at Amazon walk up to me during my internship and say, I watched your Amazon internship video and now I'm here sitting next to you because I did what you said.
Wow.
So that showed me that this isn't luck. Right. It's not chance. It's a set of actionable strategies that people can apply to get a job. And the way I know that is because I applied it, right? Like I would take students who, over the past 1 or 2 years, people had submitted hundreds and hundreds or thousands of applications. Within 6 months, 7 months, 8 months of actually working with them, fixing every step of the process, they just get that offer. Right. So it does take hard work, but there are a set of things that one can do to actually get ahead in today's market, even though it's a lot more difficult than it used to be.
Exactly. And like I saw one of your videos where you showed like the apply pass statistics, where it was like 1,400 applications, 20 interviews, and then 1 offer. The market's bad, isn't it?
Yeah, I want to push back on this a little bit. Okay. I fully agree that the market is more difficult today than it used to be.
Right.
Like, no doubt, you're crazy if you think it's the same.
Right.
I mean, you just scroll back on LinkedIn in 2020, hear stories of people in 2019, 2018, 2021 who had no business being a software engineer getting jobs in tech. But I think a lot of people tend to hide behind the phrase, the market is bad, because it kind of externalizes control.
Exactly.
So when you say the phrase, the market is bad, usually it's because you submitted a few applications, maybe you got a few OAs or interviews, and you got a few rejections, right? And you tend to chalk that up to, oh, the market's bad,
Right.
What can I do, right? It's kind of like saying,
It's like a victim mindset.
It's a bit of a victim mentality,
Yeah.
right? It's not about, you can't control the market.
Right.
Nobody control. There's very few people who control the market, and that we're not me or you, right?
Yeah.
So like we have no control over it. So it's not really even worth having that phrase in your vocabulary. Whenever I hear a friend, family member, student I work with say the phrase "the market is bad," I'm like, dude, never say that ever again. Like, just get rid of it, because you're in the situation. You can't change it. So why are you talking about that?
Yeah.
There are things you can change, right? You can, what we talk about is there's like a 6-step formula to getting a job in tech today, right?
Okay.
It starts with resume, right? Resume, probably the most important one. You can write a better resume. Recruiters spend on average 7 seconds scanning a resume before they say yes or no to the next round.
Right.
You have 7 seconds to make an impact. And I've seen some of the worst resumes to some of the best ones and the impact that makes, right? So those are things you can work on. Then you have a LinkedIn profile. You can get referrals. You can work on your behavioral interview skills, your technical interview skills, and your LeetCode skills to pass those online assessments. So when you focus on those things you can control, then all the results come.
No, that's very fair to say. Like if you just keep saying that the market is bad,
Yeah.
you're just giving up. It's like there's no other way to put it. You've not done your work. I don't think it gets to the point where like if you're qualified, you will get hired. If you're the best at your job, you will get hired. And you got to put in the work. So how do people put in the work the right way? Because I feel that ever since like 2021 and 2022, where the headcount and everything was so high, there's a lot that's changed in the market. What do people need to do?
Yeah, so on this point about being qualified equals you get the job, I think this is also another misconception people have.
Okay.
The way I see it is your engineering skills, your qualifications, it's on a spectrum, right? You go all the way from the worst engineer to the best engineer, okay?
Right.
The best engineers will always have a job. Like those people these are the people that Zuckerberg's fighting over, that, are going from OpenAI to Anthropic to Meta.
Yeah.
Like we're not them, that's fine. They can be them, right?
Right.
They're getting billion-dollar offers, right? It's fine. Okay, those are the best engineers. Most people are somewhere in the middle. Mm-hmm. And the way I see it is that most people kind of have like average engineering skills. What really separates them out is their ability to quote unquote play the game.
Right.
And I'm sure you've experienced this, whether it was high school, college, the listeners experience this too. There were always those kids who just somehow knew what they were doing, right? Maybe in high school, there were always the ones who somehow got into the best colleges. You might be like, this kid is not even that smart. How did they get into Harvard or Yale?
Yeah.
But they just knew how to play the game. Or even then, like they went from Harvard, or even if they didn't go to Harvard, they got into these big tech companies because they just kind of knew how to network their way, talk to people, and kind of navigate that career side of things. So the way I think about it is there are 2 kinds of areas you can invest in. One is called value creation. So those are your engineering skills. So that's, your ability to do operating systems, data structures, just your like full stack engineering ability. That's value creation. That directly is what you're selling to the company in exchange to give you a salary, right? But then there's value capture. That's your ability to actually market those skills that you have. So in the value capture category, we have, like I said, resume. We have LeetCode. LeetCode is in value capture. As you know, I'm sure you've done a lot of LeetCode, right?
Yeah.
Nobody does LeetCode on the job. Nobody's really like, reversing a linked list at Google. That never happens. But that skill in itself is part of that value capture category, because you can be the best engineer in the world, but if you can't pass a technical interview, you're not going to get the job.
Right.
So I think most people think that just another project, another online course, I'm just going to put some AI stuff on my resume and I'll suddenly get hired. They think that their value creation area is what they need to work on, but it's actually the value capture. Being able to network, being able to get referrals, having a good resume, have an incredible LinkedIn where hiring managers see you in the LinkedIn algorithm. Recruiters see your profile and send you in-mails and cold DMs to want to actually interview you. So I always recommend people stop thinking about the value creation area and start thinking about the value capture area.
So it's the way you market yourself, basically.
Yeah,
like
of course.
Everyone has like a certain level of skill, and like if you're not able to put it across, like even your resume, you said 7 seconds. If you put your resume out with the way value capture is not there, it's not going to get picked up.
Yeah,
no matter how skilled you are.
I knew so many incredibly talented engineers. I knew guys who from age 14, 15 were building like robots and lightsabers in their room. Like these people were incredibly talented, but they didn't get the majority of the offers. It was the people who were actually not that great, but they knew how to market themselves. They knew how to get referrals from a professor who knew a high up at Google. Right. They knew how to specifically only practice for the online assessment and for the interview. They were incredibly good at behavioral interviews. They had multiple hiring managers and recruiters in their pocket that they could reach out to at any time. Those are the people who got the outcome. Okay. And at the end of the day, right, like obviously if you can't do any programming, nothing at all, you're not going to get a job. Fair enough. But most people are not like that. Most people are in some kind of like vague in-between zone where they have some skills. They're not the best, they're not the worst. So what really pushes them ahead is focusing on the hiring process itself.
So like, what do you do to get to the value capture part? Like, how do you like maximize on that front?
So step one to maximize the value capture part is you need to find what your actual bottleneck is. So when I say get better at the hiring process, that's incredibly vague, right? People really don't know what actionable steps you want to take. So step one here is the first thing you need to do is figure out where is your actual issue. So I call this like finding your bottleneck. And there's two big bottlenecks that people face when it comes to getting a job in tech. The first one is getting interviews, right? A lot of people, they've submitted hundreds, even 1,000 applications. They've had just a handful of interviews. And that's an incredibly terrible ratio, right? Or they've had no interviews. And if you have no interviews, how are you supposed to get the outcome, the job offer? So focusing on getting more interviews in itself is that first hurdle they have to pass, right? And in the get the interview bucket, there's three things. There's resume, LinkedIn, referrals, and the fourth kind of larger one is application strategy. So kind of going to those four areas in the get the interview category. Resume. We already talked about this. You need to have a professional resume. It should be so good that when you show it to 5 to 10 people, they should all come up with different advice because they can't think of anything because it's that good, right? You should have shown it to multiple people. You should make sure that every single bullet is incredibly good. It has metrics, it has action verbs in there. People can figure out how to write a good resume, right? But most people don't spend the time it takes. You should spend 10, 15, 20 hours crafting the perfect resume. That's the first thing. The second thing is LinkedIn. LinkedIn is incredibly underutilized by people in tech. It is a dedicated social media platform just for interviewing, networking, and getting a job. There is no other way to target thousands of engineers at a company other than LinkedIn. Right? Let's say I said, okay, I want you to contact 100 Google engineers. How are you going to do it?
I would just search for Google.
On LinkedIn, right? If LinkedIn didn't exist, the only other option is walking into the Google office and shouting. There's no other option. But most people think that LinkedIn is just something you just one and done. You don't actually utilize it, right? Most people just make an account and then that's that. But LinkedIn is actually a tool you can use, right? The way I see it is people just making a LinkedIn, putting their name on it and not actually utilizing it is like buying a Tesla and never using self-driving, right? This is an incredible piece of technology that you can actually leverage. So what I recommend people do is they go on LinkedIn, get a professional headshot, like pay a photographer to do a professional headshot, get a cityscape professional banner, spend at least several hours completely filling out your profile, and then start connecting. So I always recommend people start with alumni at the companies you want to work for because they're way more likely to accept your connection request, have a nice note in there, and set up coffee chats with that. The best students I've seen are doing 5 to 10 coffee chats a week with these engineers. And at least half of those turn into referrals or recruiter emails. Right? Just by LinkedIn alone. So that's the second thing. The third thing is referrals, like I mentioned, right? You get referrals by having a good LinkedIn and reaching out to alumni or people at the companies you want to work at. You set up a call with them, you ask them, and they just give you a referral almost all the time. Referrals are, for people who are not familiar, referrals are when you have a reference or recommendation from someone at the company who vouches for you, who says, this person seems pretty solid, let's take a look at their application. Now, the main point of a referral is that it lets you skip the line. So when you have a referral, your application, it's almost guaranteed that the recruiter, hiring manager, or software engineers at the company will look at it at least. Does not mean you get the interview, doesn't mean you pass the interview, but at least you get some eyes on that application.
It's a separate pool.
It's a separate pool, right? There was a study that showed that only about 5% or less of applicants at Google had a referral, but 30 to 40% of the hired people at Google had a referral. So that's an incredible arbitrage opportunity, right? Like very few people have a referral, but most of the people getting hired ended up with a referral. And it's kind of like the last step that cannot be gamed really. Like, for example, there are AI tools that can solve the online assessments for you. There are AI tools that can solve the interview for you. AI generated resumes. Like almost every single part of the process can be gamed except for knowing someone at the company and showing them that you're actually worth it and getting that referral.
Now, the way you described it, the bottleneck is getting that interview.
It is. For most people, it is getting that interview. And the final step is application strategy. I think most people don't know which companies they're actually qualified for. So a lot of people with no experience, no internships, nothing, end up applying at Google. That's an incredible waste of time, right? You're competing with people with 5, 10 experiences, years of experience on their resume. You should be applying for those mom and pop shops, those restaurants, those like local barber shops who need like some website changing, stuff like that. Only when you're ready to actually go for big tech, go to big tech. So those are the 4 steps that I always implement to actually solve the get the interview category.
I mean, that's like a whole different take. I did have one question though. Like when I was applying for jobs, like probably like 2-3 years back, I would see that everyone had a referral. Like that's what my thought was. And you're saying that a lot of people don't. And I did speak to like a certain set of people who just wouldn't reach out to people, who would say that it's tough to get a referral. In my opinion, it's kind of easy. Like all you need to do is make a case for yourself in that first message that you send, and then it's done, right? And you can't like go around expecting that. Sure, like having a personal connect on that end works, but if you just put a message, like what would be a good message to send to someone who wants to get a referral?
Yeah. So my thoughts here are, well, to address your first point, you are probably someone who's you're very good at communication, you're very qualified, right? You might assume that it's, like everybody can get a referral.
Right.
But from what I've seen, the vast majority of people do not know how to get referrals. And I don't just mean like the referral thing in the job portal. I mean like having a contact to like the recruiter directly, like having a recruiter email directly, having a hiring manager contact directly. That also counts to me as a referral. So the way I do it is pretty straightforward. I don't recommend people just straight up ask in the initial connection request. The reason is that will work for big tech, but that initial coffee chat informational interview you would do with these engineers is not just about getting the referral. Yes, the referral is a big part of it, but you're also like mining their mind for advice they have. So for example, let's say I was trying to get a job at Amazon and I set up a coffee chat with someone who got a role at Amazon. If I talk to them on the phone, they will coach me through what Amazon looks for in the interview process.
Right.
So Amazon specifically deeply cares about their leadership principles, their LPs, right? So in the behavioral interview, if let's say I didn't know anything about Amazon, this person will tell me, you need to deeply study these leadership principles, know them like the back of your hand, right? And then quote them in the interview. And that'll probably 2 to 3x your chance of passing it, right?
Right.
So when you actually connect with these people at these companies, they almost become another coach out there who's rooting for you, vouching for you,
right,
to actually help you get the job. And even better, if you really connect with them, they will connect you with other engineers that they know.
Right.
Right. And you start to expand to this almost exponential network if you actually make a real connection with them. So yes, you can get some referrals from big tech companies, just an initial message, but I always recommend people shoot to actually book that coffee chat, that informational interview, because that builds a lifelong connection with the person that you can just keep going back to.
Okay, I really did not know that. I had a completely different approach, and that's like an interesting take. What would be like a first message for someone who is not good at communicating, just to like get that conversation through the door?
Yeah. So the way you do it, there's 2 steps to it. The first or 3 steps, I would say. The first thing is make sure your profile itself is good. Because what people do is when you send them a connection request, they look at your profile and they want to use your profile to determine whether you're worth connecting with, right?
Okay.
If Sam Altman sends you a connection request, are you saying yes or no?
I'll think of
Yeah.
I
You'll
would
say yes.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a tried example, right? Yeah. But because this guy's so unbelievably like famous, capable, genius, right? You're going to say yes. So you want to make your profile so good so that people feel they don't want to say no. And there's a couple of things to do that. I'll go with the most important underrated one, which is your photo. Right. Most people think the photo is like a throwaway. They just put some selfies, some random thing from their phone, just like, oh, whatever, it's a photo. No. Your photo, I've seen people double their acceptances by changing the photo.
Okay.
The one thing, just get a pro photo where the people look as good as possible. That's it.
Sounds like a dating app thing. Also.
It is. It is almost a dating app. You know what's funny is kind of a side tangent is there are people on LinkedIn who will just post selfies, like girls will post selfies on LinkedIn and blow up because it's all visual. These are all, this is human psychology at the end of the day. So like even as a guy, no matter who you are, the photo needs to look like you're welcoming, good looking in that kind of photo.
Right.
So that's the one thing I would change. The second thing is in terms of your the people you pick to connect with, that makes a big difference. A lot of people just spam connect with people of all ages, 40s, 50s, 60 years old, random people all over. You want to pick people who are in your age range and alumni from your school. So alumni have like a deep, where did you go to school? NYU. Let's say a good-looking NYU guy sends you a LinkedIn connection request with a really nice message.
I think the alumni thing makes a lot of difference.
Yeah. You're like way more likely to be like, dude, it's an NYU guy. You want to say yes. Just implicitly. This is called in-group bias.
Yeah.
It's a psychological tendency. When you see someone who's similar to you,
you're
way more likely to say yes. So that's why I say target alumni first. Right? It's almost like a greedy algorithm. You sort by the alumni and then go with other people afterwards. So you want to pick alumni who are slightly ahead of you in the similar age range. I even tell my students, go by ethnicity too. So like if there's an Indian guy, go for Indian people alumni at your school 3 years older than you.
Okay.
Way more likely to accept that.
That's like hacking the system.
Exactly. It's all in-group bias. And the final thing is the note itself needs to be great. One, you want to mention one specific thing about their profile. So
Right.
go through their profile. AI can do this beautifully. Go through their profile, find one unique thing. Let's say they wrote a research paper for a professor you recognize. Let's say they did an internship at Meta and they worked at, I don't know, Oculus or something, like the Meta VR part of the company, right?
Right.
So Meta Quest. Mention something specific about it in the line, and then mention you're at the same school and say you wanted to reach out and connect. Keep it vague. A lot of people just ask, can you refer me? And that bar is like way too high. It's like, what the hell? No, I don't know anything about you, right? You want to keep it vague, keep it general. And the benefit is that as soon as they click accept, now you can message them unlimited times.
No, that's true. Like the
Yeah.
can you refer me part, I've had people reach out to me for referrals, and it's just like, hey, can you refer me? I never even accept that connection. I'm just like, look, this person has not put any effort into that application. Versus someone who just sent like a message, hey, I saw you work here. I have this kind of relevant experience. Would you be open to like a conversation, or would you be open to referring me? That's much more likely to get through their door.
Yeah. Or even better, if they just say like wanted to reach out and connect and learn more about you.
Right.
That's the best. Cause it's like, oh dude, it's got a flattery too. It's like,
It
damn,
is.
this guy, it's like a nice message and it's like not asking for anything. Then once you click that accept, they can just keep following up over and over and over again. That's the first hurdle. Just click them, let them click accept, and then you can ask for the call or the referral unlimited
Right.
times.
People love to talk about themselves.
Exactly.
Like, look at us doing a podcast.
Yeah, 100%. So that's what I would say. That's the best ways to get referral and maximize your shot of getting the interview.
No, that's very true. So, what are like 2-3 things that teams, when they're looking for an employee, what are they prioritizing these days?
Yeah, so I think one interesting aspect of it could be tapping into recruiter psychology. I think most people don't really know what recruiters do and who they are, right? Because you hear this term recruiter, but the vast majority of students and applicants don't really understand like what their game is and what their incentive is. So when I learned about this, I actually interviewed an Amazon recruiter in my channel.
I saw that, yeah.
And that was crazy because she really peeled back the surface of what these recruiters actually do. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, but basically university recruiters and just like early career or just recruiters in general, they are incentivized by one thing. The person they recruit getting hired and staying at the company.
Right.
Right. That's all they want. The recruiter, the best recruiters get the most people who are hired and stay there for a long period of time.
Right.
So if you dive into that, like what does that mean? These recruiters literally have a quota that they have to hit. They're like, I've got to put 20 people hires and then I'm done for the season.
Right.
That's literally how they operate. It's like, and some companies will pay the recruiters based on that. So they have like a base salary and they get commission based on the number of hires.
Okay.
So the recruiter is very flaky. Like they basically love you or they hate you, right?
Right.
And they love you if they think you're going to be an easy yes for the interview team.
Right.
Right. If you're like incredible background, incredible profile, incredibly proficient at interviewing, they will be your number one candidate. They want you to
Right.
be there because it's an easy job for them, right? If this is like, again, some open AI engineer, right? Like I want them to be on the team. It's so
Right.
easy. Like they literally, it's like zero chance that they're going to mess up the interview because they're a genius, right?
Right.
So you have to understand like what does the recruiter actually want. So when you reach out to these recruiters, which you should be reaching out to them on LinkedIn or asking people to give them their email, you need to show them two things. One, that you will get the interview, and two, that you'll pass the interview.
Okay.
So in that message, you should show them, hey, I've got experience at this company, and this company, and this is why I'd be a good fit for your company. And finally, I've done this many LeetCode problems, I've done this many technical interviews, and passed interviews at this company, and this company,
Okay.
right? Because if you think about it, most people don't think. You're actually justifying to the recruiter, this is why I would easily pass interviews at your company.
I'm a little confused on the part that you said that you've interviewed at these companies. Would that show like some sort of failure? That you-
No, meaning like I passed interviews at
Oh, okay,
X, Y, and Z
right.
companies. So let's say I'm reaching out to a Google recruiter.
Right.
Let's say I'm currently at Amazon, or let's say I'm currently at Shopify, okay?
Right.
I want to go work at Google. I got the Amazon offer last year. I reach out to the Google recruiter. I say, I have experience at Shopify this many years. I passed all the interviews at Amazon last year and got an offer. And I've solved 500 plus LeetCode problems.
Okay.
That's a much easier yes to them
Right.
to actually be like, oh, wow, this person passed another company's interviews. Okay, like, why don't I just put them through the pipeline and give them a shot?
And you've like done their work for them. Like
Yeah.
you've told them what all you've done. Otherwise
Exactly.
they have to like look at your profile, probably even go to like your LeetCode account and see how many questions you've solved. You've done the whole thing for them.
Yeah, like
Makes
you
it easier.
essentially like show why you're someone that's worth putting in front of the interview team,
Okay.
right? So that's kind of an underrated thing that people look at these days.
Yeah, that's like a good take on it. Okay, so if I had 30 days to like get a job and get the whole thing, what's like the step-by-step process that I need to do?
Yeah, so why don't we actually define who we're talking to here? So like, could you kind of paint a profile of this kind of person? Because it really depends based on what your background and experience is.
Let's talk about someone who's like an early career, maybe 1 or 2 years of experience. They're looking to switch their job, and they're already working like at a mid-tier company. So how would they? What else like do we need to know about them?
Yeah, let's come up with an example. Let's say they work at Visa and they want to get into Google.
Okay.
That's just like kind of a standard example. I mean, Visa's a recognizable company, but like let's say Google's one step up from that, right? So they want to go to there. So I would say the first thing is, again, like identify their bottleneck.
Okay.
Like figure out, can they get interviews? Can they not get interviews, or can they not pass them?
Okay.
Right? Because let's say someone has gotten 10 interviews and they failed all of them.
Right.
Okay. That is one very different situation than someone who's like a medalist competitive programmer who can't get a single interview.
Right.
Right. Very different situation. So I would first ask, like, what is your specific issue there? We've already talked a lot about getting the interviews. I would just run that playbook, right? I would make your resume incredible, make your LinkedIn incredible, get dozens of referrals at the companies you want to work at, and try to connect with recruiters and justify why you're worth staying in front of them. So that's the get the interview side of things. Let's talk about the pass the interview side of things, because we haven't actually talked about that as much. So there's 3 elements to passing interviews. The first one is LeetCode / online assessments. Now, there's a lot of controversy about LeetCode these days. I'm sure you've seen like Roy Lee and Interview Coder and all these
Cluey
AI.
guy, right?
Cluey, yeah, exactly. So a lot of people think LeetCode is completely dead, and I agree that companies are starting to move away from it. But I've worked with hundreds of computer science students, new grads, and software engineers. Companies are still using LeetCode. So you want to make sure your LeetCode skills are in tip-top shape and be able to solve the majority of LeetCode mediums as well on the spot. That's the first thing. And that will help you get through the online assessment category, which is kind of that first roadblock people struggle with. The next thing is technical interviews. So technical interviews, for the listener, are when you actually solve a coding problem live in front of an engineer, whether it's a data structures and algorithms problem, could be a system design problem, or some variation of the two. So the best thing about technical interviews, which I've seen, is you want to do mock interviews.
Okay.
The vast majority of people don't even do that. They just show up to the technical interview and just wish them luck. It's like, oh, I have Google tomorrow, reviewed a few DSA problems, wish me luck, right?
Right.
You want to actually run through between 5 and 15 mock interviews.
Okay.
And you want to pretend like the person interviewing you, ideally it's with a fellow engineer or a friend. A lot of companies, you can purchase mock interviews. I did a lot of those. My company, you can also do mock interviews with FANG engineers. But just try to come up with some kind of qualified way to do mock interviews to actually prepare. Because solving LeetCode in your bedroom is one thing, but actually doing it live in front of an engineer under time pressure and explaining your solution out loud as you're coding is a completely separate thing. So you need to make sure your technical interview skills are incredible. And the most underrated thing, I think, is behavioral interview skills. The vast majority of people that I've talked to, they're like, oh, give me all the technical stuff. I need help with the technical stuff. Behavioral, I'll figure that out later. And the thing about behavioral interviews is, in a world of AI, when AI is doing all the coding for you, all the technical stuff, it's really the behavioral that sets you apart. Are you someone that's going to be good to work with long term? Are you a reliable engineer? Are you someone people aren't going to hate on the team? Can you communicate effectively? Can you negotiate amongst multiple stakeholders, whether it's a product manager, your manager, other engineers, your skip level manager, et cetera, right? So behavioral interviews are a completely underrated, underutilized thing. So everybody knows the STAR method. I have 3 extra elements I add to that. So the first one is called restate. Very simple. You want to restate the behavioral question. So let's say the interviewer asks you, tell me about a time you worked through a very difficult technical challenge. The way you say it is, great question. So just to confirm, you want me to talk about a time I overcame a difficult technical problem in my past role. Is that correct? And they're like, oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, awesome, sounds good. And then you just get started. The reason you say that is 2 things. 1, it shows the interviewer that you're listening and you're paying attention. And 2, a lot of people forget the question halfway through. Very common. I'll do mock interviews with students and they'll be like, wait, what was the question again? Dude, what the hell, right? So you want to restate it just so it gets locked in your mind. Then you have normal STAR. And then the last 2 I want to add are impact and philosophy. So the way I see impact is it's the result of the result, right? So let's say I'm telling a story about how I helped, I tutored a bunch of kids at some high school for programming and they all got A's in their class. Okay, that's a result. The impact is that 30% of them actually enrolled in a computer science degree because of the confidence they got from getting A's in their class. That's the impact. It's like, what is that like one other step that happened as a result of your result? And that shows like your level of deep thinking, right? It shows that you understand, you build for the long term, you can project out. It just shows a level of maturity in your answer. And the final thing is philosophy. So what is the general principle, idea, lifelong learning you got from this story? So for example, let's say I'm telling some story about solving some problem and the way I did it was I just built some solution within 24 hours and just like started testing it and just got data, right? The philosophy could be like, you want to have a bias for action and you want to move fast. Both of those, one is an Amazon principle and one is a meta principle, right? So you want to bring in these general values and philosophical elements in the end, and ideally you map it to the company you're going for. So when you work on your behavioral skills, it makes everything significantly easier.
No, that I didn't even know about these extra 3 things, and like it makes sense to add them. Like the STAR method, like this is the way to stand out. Like you said, the rephrasing that whole question. You said that the person is just going to forget about the question.
Yeah.
It's not like you're trying to like deceive them, but it's like, it's a way the human psychology works. And in this market, like try to find every way you can to get in, right?
Absolutely. And like I said, for behavioral, I've done hundreds of behavioral mock interviews for people. I've ran them. And I've never had a single person on the first mock interview have a perfect behavioral.
Right.
So the vast majority of people suck at behavioral. So that's one of those arbitrage opportunities where you can just get good at that and instantly get ahead. And like I said, in the world of AI, where AI can be used for everything, behavioral is one of those last things. There are companies that don't even do technical interviews. They just do behavioral.
Right.
Like a lot of startups do that. Literally it's just nothing. It's just like a conversation, that's it. I know people who just only had behavioral and just got a job off of that.
No, it looks like the easiest part, but you're telling me like it's like a game changer if you do it right. And I like when I was doing my interview prep like years back, it was just like I never took that seriously.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it is a sign of the times where you have to work a lot harder these days. But when people really focus their time and effort on those things they can control, that like 6 or 7 step framework, that's when all the results come.
So I had one more question, and I actually have more than that. But I saw one of your videos, and you said that people need to really focus on projects. Like they're really underestimating the projects. They just do like the class project or like really simple projects. And in today's world, you need to stand out. What does like a good project look like?
I actually have a question about that. Which video did you see where I talked about that? Because I think my opinion on projects is different than most people.
What do you mean?
I made a video called LeetCode versus projects, and I think I said LeetCode is more important.
No. I said that when you're putting your resume, like you want projects on it, right?
Yeah.
And you said that a lot of people just get like simple projects in class. They're not putting like 300 people in a class, everyone's done the same project.
Yeah. Like a calculator app or a to-do list app.
Yeah.
I think class projects, you have to put them to start, but they do not look good because it's all the same. So for my opinion, the best project is almost like building a startup. Right. There's actually 2 ways to do it. The first one is you do a hackathon.
Right.
I'm sure you've done many hackathons. I've done several of them. The benefit of a hackathon is you have 24 hours to show up with the team, create impact, and you actually want to aim to win the hackathon. So the reason why is because, again, like you have 24 hours, you show up at like an external situation, you want to make a really cool app. So it's like a forcing function to have a good project. So if you only have class projects, I would just do hackathons. Now I have like a 3 or 4 step hackathon winning framework I've used to win multiple hackathons. The first one is you want to actually set your team in advance, and you want to make sure that your team is actually covering different bases. Most people just team with their friends. You want to find people who have different skills. So you have one back-end person, one front-end person, or maybe like a mobile person, one design person, right? You want to make sure that people have, or one networking person, people have different skills are actually on the team. The second thing is you want to decide the app or the project you're building on before the hackathon and work on it beforehand. Right. Most people think that's like cheating or something. You're not going to bring the code in because that would be cheating. What you're going to do is you're actually going to build the app ahead of time and practice it, almost like memorizing what you're going to do on the day of. Every winning hackathon team does that. Nobody just walks in like, oh, what should we build? Like, no, nobody does that. Everybody's spending 1 to 3 months ahead of time, deciding exactly what they're doing, speccing it out and building those apps. And the final thing, what I've seen with people win hackathons is the ones that look the best often win. So I give this example, which is somebody could build or write $1 million ML research paper in a hackathon, and the judge would be like, what even is this?
Right.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good you are. It matters how good you look. And the hackathons that I've been at where the winners are winning, they essentially have like the coolest looking app. Or that's some like visual AI thing or some like cool slick looking thing, right? Something that looks cool that can be completely useless on the back end, that is what wins. So those are the big things I would focus on when it comes to doing a hackathon. The second way I would do a project is almost like building a startup for a customer. So I would go out there, try to find a small business or find some kind of customer, and you can build a custom app for, whether it's a website or a web app or something. And then I would make that my project. The reason is because it shows that you can work with external requirements and external stakeholders, right? When you just do a class project, everybody's doing the exact same project. You're following whatever the professor gives you, and it all looks very generic and standard. What most people can't say is how much money they earned / built for the small business, right? Using this web application. So it just shows that you can work with a team and work with external stakeholders.
I mean, like a real world project and a class project.
Yeah,
so
completely different. Completely different situation.
But the first time like I started my job, And like I had done a few hackathons, and I was like, I thought I knew my stuff. First project I got on, it was completely different. Like the number of stakeholders in that, the whole like flow, the amount of edge cases and everything versus like building like a calculator app, totally different.
Yeah.
And coming back to that point where you said the most aesthetic looking project, you know what? That happened to me. I went for like a Microsoft hackathon, and we built like the craziest project, like in terms of like the back end. We were like, this is impressive. And the guy with the best UI won. And we had the worst UI, but the best idea. So you're completely like, it's like some sort of PTSD that's coming back to me.
Dude, I've seen this happen so many times, right?
Yeah.
Like people think that the back end or however cool it is, no. Like whatever just looks the coolest. So the one,
Yeah.
I went to this hackathon and one of the winners, they had some like, I don't even know if it was a working app, but like they had some computer vision thing where like there was some like stick figure mapped onto people. So they were like dancing around and the stick figure was mapping onto them. It was some kind of fitness transformation thing.
Right.
And like the app, I guarantee the back end was complete bullshit, didn't do anything. But just because the judge was like, ooh, watching this like thing, they ended up winning.
It's a game of visuals.
It is a game of visuals, right? It's
Yeah.
about like, I think a general principle I've just learned more in life is you need to think about who is actually making the assessment and think about these like different ways that you can optimize and arbitrage for those people. Whether it's the recruiters, justifying to them why you're going to be easy for them to sell, whether it's the judges at a hackathon, looking at like what do they actually look at, that tends to get you ahead.
Okay. So, Aman, coming back to like our 30 days, we have, would it be right to say we have 3 things that we need to focus on? LeetCode, system design, and behavioral?
I would say that's if you struggle with passing interviews.
Okay.
So, like I said, the first step is figure out like what bottleneck you have. Now, the big thing is like 30 days, I feel like is a little bit tight to get a job. Really
Okay.
depends on who you are. Like if you already have a lot of success and there's one problem, you can do it. But most people end up taking 3 to 4 months to actually like fix everything and apply it. That's when you work with a coach. Like if you're just doing it on your own, probably 6 to 12 months to actually fix everything.
Okay.
So I would say, like I said, coming back to the point is identify your problem, whether it's getting interviews or passing interviews. Now, another point here is that a lot of people actually have both. A lot of people can't even get interviews, nor can they pass them.
Okay.
So that means you have to work on both at the same time. I would recommend grinding LeetCode on your own, working on behavioral interviews while also getting referrals and applying. So yes, it is more effective to like hyper focus on your one big problem. But if both situations are your problems, both getting interviews and passing them, you can work on both of them simultaneously.
You kind of have to.
You have to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're not going to get a job without both of these things not being perfect.
Right. But like assuming like you, coming back to like the 30-day question, you have 3 things if you had to focus on.
Yep.
System design, LeetCode, and behavioral.
Yeah.
There's a
for
lot of
passing
students,
interviews.
sorry?
For passing interviews.
Right. Like
Yeah, yeah.
assuming that you got the interview, like
Yeah,
it's in
yeah.
30 days. Right. So a lot of people like they have a tough time balancing all 3, and they go into this stage of like a burnout where they're like, oh, I have to do LeetCode, I have to do system design, and I have to do behavioral. What's the way to do it?
Yes, the way I see it is you want to essentially just time block it in your schedule and just religiously stick to that time block.
Okay.
So when I was preparing for these interviews, what I would do is, what I say is an hour of LeetCode a day keeps the unemployment away. So I always tell my friends that it's like, just do LeetCode. I know you hate it. I know you think it's the worst thing ever, but just block an hour every single day. We're going to solve 2 medium problems.
Okay.
LeetCode is a friend of mine. He's a great, incredible resource. I recommend people do the LeetCode 150. I also have a problem set, which you can find on my website that just for free, 50 problems from LeetCode set, which is pretty good as well. So you just want to like spend about an hour a day, just block it out, just grinding LeetCode. Then when it comes to system design, it really depends on what level of your career you're at. If you're more advanced, you need more system design. If you're earlier, it's a little bit less important.
Okay.
I recommend just getting LeetCode's course or just getting a system design book and just do practice problems. So you don't actually have to be that good. These interviews are not super complicated for system design. And then finally for behavioral is also not that bad. Like there's 2 things. Just download a list of 30 behavioral questions, go through them, apply the R*IP framework that I talked about earlier, and then make sure you have a story bank. So that's another thing I didn't talk about. Most people don't have enough stories to answer all the questions.
Right.
So what I do with my students is I give them a list of 30 behavioral questions, and then we map out which 5 or 6 stories in their life can map to all of the questions. So they've got every single behavioral question covered with 5 or 6 stories.
Right.
So you want to actually sit there and think like, what happened to me in this internship, in this club, in this project, in this research experience, and try to like write out those stories in detail so you can recite them on the spot. So it's really about focusing on like the inputs and just time blocking into your schedule and make sure you make time for all of them.
For that story thing that you're telling me, I know like Amazon actually allows you to like have those stories in front of you. Like you can put them on paper.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, this is like a recent thing. They say that you can have them on paper, like you can refer to them in their leadership principle stories. So a lot of people like it's being more prepared for the behavioral interview. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like I know people who are genuinely bad at coding, who are good at behavioral, who just got an offer.
Wow.
Because I'm telling you, behavioral is really that underutilized arbitrage thing today.
Wow. So how do you package this in your software engineer accelerator program?
Yeah, so it's really just implementing everything we talked about with a team of expert coaches. So step one is literally, we go in this order. We do resume, LinkedIn referrals, behavioral interviews, technical interviews, LeetCode. So we start with getting an interview. So we have like a 4-pass resume screen. So we start with the students work on like an hour-long resume module where they fix a lot of mistakes. Then they actually go to an Amazon recruiter or a Bloomberg recruiter who are actually part of our team who will review their resume and like basically tell them all the mistakes they've made. Then they hop on a call with the recruiter where they tell them more mistakes and fix those. Then they hop on a call with me. So it's a 4-step formula. And people have told me that their resume before versus after is unrecognizable. It's not even this. It's like, dude, it's not even the same resume. Like, I don't even know who this is. It's so bad before and so good after. So that's the first thing. Same thing with LinkedIn. We go through that. And then we have a referral template scripts thing, basically implementing everything we talked about earlier in terms of like who to reach out to, how to message them. We also give them a script of like what to say on the coffee chat to convince them to give a referral.
Okay.
So a lot of people need hand-holding.
No, this is like crazy. Like you kind of need this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, you can do everything yourself, but we just basically help people actually implement there. And then on the LeetCode side of things, we give them a problem set. We do weekly office hours with the engineers to help them with the data structures knowledge and system design. And then we have a bunch of one-on-one technical and behavioral mock interviews as well. So it's kind of like going through all the formula I talked about, but just implementing with a team of engineers and recruiters.
So is this like a timeline thing as well? Like you can have people who are on different timelines. What if someone got laid off and they need a job and like someone on an H-1B, they needed like 60 days. Someone who just wants to prepare for like 6 months. Do you have like resources for all timelines?
Yeah, the good point is that, or the good part of that is that it's actually, the approach is very similar for everyone. So everybody has to have a good resume. Everybody has to have a good LinkedIn. Everybody has to know how to get referrals. Everybody has to know how to do technical, behavioral, and online assessments, right?
Right.
Nobody doesn't have to do all of that. It's pretty much all the same. So while the timeline does change a bit, we do just go through everything with everyone. So we do work with people in totally different backgrounds. We've helped people who are international students or on visas who have a shorter time frame. We've also helped people with a longer time frame who want to just get ahead. Right. So the process is very similar.
Okay, interesting. So Aman, I had this question, like it's been eating everyone, and Anthropic's CEO recently said this also. 3 to 6 months, 90% of coders should be gone. What do you think about that?
Funny enough, I feel like he said that like 3 to 6 months ago, and you're sitting here, and a lot of my friends are still software engineers. So it's kind of surprising. I feel like they say it year after year after year, but I don't see a world where 90% of coders are gone.
Right.
The way I see it is, at this point, we are seeing that if you're not using AI tools daily as a software engineer, you're kind of screwed.
Right.
Right. All the best engineers are incredibly fluent in using AI tools, whether it's Claude Code or Copilot, or Cursor. Like pretty much people are incredibly fluent using AI tools in engineering. And the result is that their speed of iteration is significantly higher. So like, let's say 10 years ago, it was like, okay, one pull request or one PR for the day is like good, right?
Right.
But now it's like people are pushing 5, 10, 15 PRs daily or like weekly or whatever, right? People are pushing much more code because the AI is taking care of a lot of that legwork. But people still need the engineers for the first 10% and the last 10%. So if you think about doing anything, right, the first 10% is setting the direction. It's like, what are we actually building in this app? What feature are we deciding on? Then the middle 80% is actually just like building everything out. The boilerplate, the frameworks, what are you implementing, hooking everything up. And then the last 10% is making sure it's good enough. The definition of done, making sure it's fine to push, and you've got all the edge cases covered, you have enough tests, et cetera, right? So the engineers are going to do the first 10% and the last 10%. The AI is going to take care of the middle 80%.
Right.
So people who are already fluent in that, they already understand that they're focusing on letting AI do what it does best, which is come up with all of that boilerplate stuff. They're focusing on picking what to work on and reviewing the AI code, making sure it's perfect, there's no mistakes. Those are the people who are getting ahead. So if I was talking to a software engineer today, I would say just become incredibly fluent in using the AI tools to develop things. and you'll most likely actually be ahead of the vast majority of people. So I don't think engineers are going anywhere. I think either we will all become incredibly powerful software engineers who are building like full stack applications daily for companies.
Okay.
I think we'll live in a world where there will be apps for everything, literally everything. And I think most people don't have big enough imagination to understand a world like this. Literally, apps like Uber and DoorDash did not exist 20 years ago. Like those were unmet needs that were created. Right. And believe it or not, there are millions of unmet needs that have not been built for. Right. There are so many situations where businesses and people are just going through daily life, not knowing how technology could help them. Right. So I don't think engineers are going anywhere. And even if like software engineers disappear, there will always be AI engineers, right? Like we will always have to be working on these models, developing these tools and this infrastructure to actually deploy AI. So I think as long as you're staying on the cutting edge, you're learning new tools, you're developing, you're not just, disappearing in the past, you'll be okay.
No, what you say, like this whole transfer of jobs, it's something real. Like I think I read this story about like the IRS, and it was like 20 years back or 30, I don't know the timeline. But it was like they had accountants and everything was done on paper. They had 1,000 accountants, if I'm not wrong. When the whole computer revolution came around, the 1,000 accountants went away, but they had 1,000 computer specialists that joined them. So it was just like a transfer of jobs, is what I think it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, we actually have a record low unemployment rates if you look at it like over a century time span, right? I think people look at unemployment over the last 5-10 years, and that goes up and down. But if you look at like just employment in general, like people, there are jobs, you know what I mean? Like if truly there was a world where technology created 0 jobs and it was like jobs are done, like we would look at like the agricultural revolution or the industrial revolution, and we would just have like 80-90% unemployment rates, which is not true at all, right? In general, people end up doing different things, right? So I think in the future, we're just going to see a radically different, worldview of what people end up doing. Like for example, what we're doing today was not a job. Right. 30 years ago, right? YouTuber, influencer, podcaster, creator, those were not roles. People just couldn't do that back in the day. Right. So there's all these unmet needs going to be created. Like even if you took it like the media and content landscape, right? There will be experts for every length of content. So there's going to be like podcasters at the 2-hour mark, at the 1.5-hour mark, at the 1-hour mark, at the 45-minute mark, at the 30-minute mark, at the 20-minute mark, or the 1-minute mark, and the 1-second mark of stories, right? And there'll be different principles and levers that people pull at every single level of the journey. So I'm not worried at all. I think there's always going to be things for smart and intelligent people to work on.
That's like a really positive take for a lot of people to take today.
Yeah.
So if someone wants to transition from like being a software engineer to like an AI engineer, what's like a roadmap for them?
I'm going to be completely honest. I'm not experienced in AI engineering, so it's hard for me to actually like answer that question. But I would say what I can tell you is just focus on the daily inputs. But a big part of my thing is like just focus on what your daily inputs, your daily control can be. I would say probably the 2 things you can do is 1, just reach out to AI engineers. So try to find people at these companies who are working with AI on the regular and reach out to them and just ask them to mentor you or help you. That'll shortcut your progress a lot. And then also be willing to pay for resources. Right. A lot of people are like, oh, I want to do everything for free. And sure, there are AI tools that can help you. There's like free YouTube videos, but if you can invest in asking someone to help you directly one-on-one or like some kind of course, you'll get a lot ahead there. So I would recommend reach out to people for help and offer to pay them to actually support you on your journey.
Yeah, people really underestimate mentorship.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Has there been like an example of mentorship that's changed your life in your journey?
Sorry, what?
Do you have like an example of how mentorship has changed your life?
For me, I think like a lot of mentorship comes from like books. I do have like mentorships. Like I do follow this YouTuber, and I really get a lot of advice from him in terms of how I need to change my channel. And I think like getting advice from someone who's done something themselves just like makes it easier. They know like they can see your blind spots. And like if I need some YouTube advice, I could come to you. You've done so well on YouTube. And I'd just be like, if I want to grow my channel, Aman, where do I fix this? And even as a software engineer, if I want to change my job someday, I'll come to you. I'll be like, hey, Aman, you've done this, you've met, thousands of people. Like I'm really getting to the point where like I think mentorship is so underestimated that if you just take advantage of it, you'd like skip out on like a lot of steps that you would have to figure out on your own.
Yeah. The way I think about it is imagine your younger self 10 years ago. what could you tell that person? Could you shortcut that person's journey to get to where you are today to maybe 8 years, 7 years, 6 years?
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know what works. So it's a little bit, I think it's almost like prideful for people to think people ahead of me can't teach me anything.
Right.
No. If you can tell your younger self everything they need to get to where you are in a much shorter period of time, then it's prideful to say that someone who's older than you cannot do the same for you.
Wow. That's a good advice, man. Aman, I saw this video of yours, and this is how I want to conclude this podcast. You shut off your phone once for like 3-4 days and like read the book Alchemist. What's one advice from that you would want to leave over here?
So the story of the Alchemist is about a shepherd boy named Santiago.
Right.
And he grew up, I think, in the southern part of Spain, or maybe around Gibraltar kind of area. And essentially with him, he was a shepherd. He was a successful shepherd. He had his whole flock of sheep. But one day he had this dream of this treasure underneath the pyramids of Egypt. And he had a choice at that point, which is, do I go for this vision, this dream, this thing I've always wanted to do, go to the, journey across Morocco, make the journey, go to Egypt? Or do I just kind of accept it? It's like, hey, whatever, that was a dream. Dreams are dreams. I'm just going to stick with my sheep. And the line he talked about was, I could always be a shepherd. I know how raising sheep is done. I could sell all my sheep. I could get back there in 1 or 2 years. But maybe I'll never have another shot at making it to the pyramids of Egypt. So what I always recommend people is like, everybody knows what that dream is. Everybody knows in their heart what they want to do, right? If they could just press a button and make it happen. So most people can get back to where they are today, given enough time, effort, and skills. Very few people are at a point where they literally cannot get back to where they are. So maybe it's about taking that risk and recognizing that you have one life. And it's better to go for that dream and just abandon the sheep, because you can always go back and get more sheep and become a shepherd again.
That's such a good advice. I have to read that book.
You have to. I think it would change your life. Change mine.
Yeah, I saw that you started your whole YouTube channel on the basis of that. I mean, not started, like you transitioned from leaving your job and completely. Dude,
I read that book and within 3 weeks I quit my job. Like that was it. It was enough for me to know that now was the time. Really. It was like, I saw that and I just almost mapped software engineer and YouTuber onto that. It was like, I teach people how to get jobs in tech. I know how it's done. If I was like, put a gun to my head, I can get a job in 3 months. It's not going to be hard. Maybe it'll be hard, but it's not impossible. I will get it done, right?
Right.
But maybe at that point, maybe I would never have a chance to actually go all in. While I was young, I didn't have a family, I had resources. I was at a point in my life where I was scrappy, right? Like I can sleep on my brother's couch, no problem. That was no problem to me at that point. But maybe that wouldn't be the case in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years when I have a family, wife, kids, right? So at that point, it made me realize I'm just going to take this experiment, spend a year, see if I can make this YouTube channel and business successful, and it ended up being really successful. And now I'm still doing that full time. I don't have any desire nor need to go back to get a 9-to-5 job.
That's amazing, man. And inspirational.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much for doing this, Aman.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for having me. It's great to meet you.
Yeah, likewise.